Some people don't realize the good they bring into a space. They arrive, and the atmosphere subtly changes. There are individuals who heal simply through their presence, without touch, without words, without even knowing they are doing it. The reality is that there is an unseen force, an aura that speaks before the body even sits down, a quiet vibration that welcomes, calms, offers comfort, and gently influences everything around it. And perhaps you are one of those people, even if you have not recognized it yet. Carl Jung once said, "The soul heals when in contact with what is genuine." What others sense when they are near you is exactly that: authenticity. There is steadiness in your frequency. There is alignment in what you project. In this video, we will examine 13 signs that your energy may be quietly healing others. Stay until the end, because as you understand these signs, you may begin to see your own strength and realize that what sets you apart is not a flaw. It is what makes you compelling. If you have not subscribed yet, this is a good moment to do so. Here, we speak to those who feel what cannot always be explained. You may have experienced this many times. You are having a normal conversation, nothing especially deep, and suddenly the other person begins to open up. They share childhood memories, unresolved pain, one stories even their closest friends have never heard. Then they pause, surprised, and say, "I don't know why I'm telling you all this," but you understand why. It happens too often to be random. This is the first sign. People share personal things with you without planning to. Not because you push or ask intrusive questions, but because your energy creates space for sincere listening. A space that is increasingly rare. A space where someone feels they will not be interrupted, judged, or corrected. A place where they can simply exist, where a soul tired of being guarded finds relief and for a few moments can rest. What is interesting is that this happens with all kinds of people: strangers on public transport, co-workers, neighbors you hardly know. They approach you, sense something steady, and casual conversation turns into release. Sometimes there are tears, sometimes long silences, but there is always honesty afterward, a sense of lightness, clarity afterward, a sense of lightness, clarity, or renewed courage. You did not heal them with advice. You helped simply by listening. And today, that is rarer than any method or technique. Perhaps that is why people trust you. You recognize another person's pain not because you studied it, but because you have lived it and still remained standing. That leads to the second sign. You feel others' pain, but you do not lose yourself in it. This is a different kind of sensitivity. It is not absorbing everything like a sponge. It is not reacting with tears out of habit. It is grounded empathy, steady and balanced. It is as if your soul has learned to regulate itself, to hold space for someone to go deep without sinking alongside them. You notice what others try to hide. You sense the pauses between words, the gestures that contradict what the eyes reveal. Yet even with that awareness, you remain centered, and that stability is what heals. The other person feels safe to release their emotions because you are not collapsing with them. Many confuse empathy with shared suffering. What you offer is more refined and more effective. It is a presence that supports without absorbing, that acknowledges without taking on, that feels alongside but does not fall apart. For someone caught in chaos, that steadiness feels like solid ground. This ability to feel while maintaining boundaries cannot easily be taught. It often grows from the pain you once carried alone, from moments when there was no one to support you and you had to care for yourself with what you had. What once seemed like isolation became emotional strength, and now that strength has become refuge for others. You do not carry someone else's burden, but you provide a place where it can rest, and that is enough. Some wounds only need to be seen to begin to soften. Even in silence, your presence communicates, "I understand." That alone can begin to restore someone from within. The third sign is a phrase you have likely heard before, usually with genuine surprise. "I feel so much lighter after talking to you." The conversation may not have been long or intense, yet the effect remains. The person leaves looking more relaxed, their expression softer, their posture less tense. So it feels as though something heavy was released without dramatic effort. What most people fail to notice is that the relief did not come from specific words. It came from the space you created. Your presence allows someone to lower their defenses, to breathe out what they have been holding in, to acknowledge emotions without embarrassment. It is as though you gently open a small gap in someone's emotional armor, not to intrude, but to let fresh air in. The lightness you bring reflects your own inner work. Only someone who has explored their own complexity knows how not to burden another. You do not pressure, rush, or attempt to control the pace, and that absence of pressure brings ease. Carl Jung observed that what is accepted in silence begins to transform. That is what you offer, a space where a person can be as they are, without needing to appear strong. And that alone starts the healing process, because it removes the constant demand to perform. When you hold space, the other person begins to reorganize internally. Your silence is not empty. It is supportive. It validates without speaking. It grants permission. That may be why people return to you. Sometimes they do not even know what they want to discuss. They simply feel drawn to your presence. A few minutes near you, and tension starts to fade. This lightness does not come from avoiding pain. It comes from integrating it. You are not light because you have never suffered. You are light because you transformed your suffering into stability. And now that stability offers relief to others. Some people demand attention. Others create space. You belong to the second group. You do not compete to be heard. You invite others to hear themselves. You are not there to fix, analyze, or rush conclusions. You are there to hold. And that is uncommon. This is the fourth sign. You respond with listening rather than reaction. While many speak before truly hearing, you pause. While others rush to give advice, you allow silence to remain. It is in that space, between what is said and your thoughtful response, that change begins. No one evolves under pressure, but much can surface when listening is genuine. Your attention is steady, yet never intrusive. It carries no urgency to solve. It respects pauses, hesitations, and words that struggle to emerge. Sometimes, simply by staying present, you allow someone to hear themselves clearly for the first time. It is as if your presence is a quiet, safe room, one where a person can move freely without fear of judgment. You listen not only with your ears, but with your awareness. Your energy communicates that feelings are allowed. This is not indifference or emotional distance. It is emotional maturity, the understanding that not every problem requires an immediate answer. Sometimes it only needs room. In that room, healing begins. The listening you provide reminds others they do not have to explain everything perfectly. They can contradict themselves. They can admit uncertainty. That freedom is powerful. Around you, people feel they can exhale. They do not need to perform or present an improved version of themselves. You accept what is present. This kind of listening does not come from instruction manuals. It grows from once needing to be heard and finding only silence. Now, you have become the pause that was missing. And in that pause, others rediscover themselves. The fifth sign appears in reactions that cannot be faked. Children and animals are naturally drawn to you. That speaks more about your energy than any compliment. They are not influenced by logic or appearances. They respond to what they feel. They sense consistency rather than rehearsed behavior. And they trust you because what you project matches who you are. An anxious dog relaxes near you. A baby reaches toward you from someone else's arms. A usually distant cat settles beside you as if familiar. This is instinct recognizing safety. It is stable energy being identified as a place of rest. This recognition may seem subtle, but it is profound. It suggests there is something in you that does not threaten, impose, or manipulate. So it reflects a quiet integrity, an energy that heals simply by being present. A calm presence that quietly communicates, "You are safe here." Children in particular recognize authenticity. Even before they understand language, they sense tone, eye contact, and the emotional atmosphere around them. With you, they often approach without hesitation. They begin conversations, ask to be held, or offer spontaneous smiles. In that moment, they detect something familiar, perhaps sincerity, perhaps peace, perhaps simply a comfortable silence. It is as if your aura communicates safety without words, and they understand. The unconscious does not operate through language but through symbols and vibration, and what you project is emotional integrity. It does not matter whether you have studied spirituality, subtle practices, or rituals. What matters is that your energy carries something refined over time. That refinement becomes visible in the way instinctive beings respond to you. In many ways, this sign is one of the clearest confirmations. Those who cannot pretend trust your presence. And today, that trust is one of the most genuine forms of healing. The sixth sign that your energy is quietly healing others appears in moments when everything seems close to falling apart, yet you remain centered. When the atmosphere feels heavy, when tension rises, when situations begin to unravel, you become steady without drawing attention to yourself. Without raising your voice or creating drama, you simply remain grounded. Your presence may not stop chaos, but it prevents it from spreading unchecked. You become a reference point, and that is rarer than it sounds. Many people collapse when circumstances do. You do not. You hold space without trying to dominate it. Recently, a follower commented on one of our videos about what she described as an intimidating aura. She shared a story that stayed with me. She said she knew someone who was frequently late for flights, yet the pilots would wait. According to her, whenever this person boarded, there was no turbulence or serious delay. It was as though their presence stabilized the journey itself. Whether symbolic or literal, the story reveals something meaningful. There are individuals whose energy influences not only emotions, but the wider environment. Your frequency brings order, and in critical moments, you become a form of structural silence, the kind that supports the inner framework of someone who feels like they are breaking. Your presence alone communicates, "You do not have to fall apart right now." This level of emotional stability develops in someone who has already faced their own internal chaos and learned to move through it. Someone who, even while shaken inside, discovered how to prevent total collapse. Jung referred to this as the activation of the self, the organizing center of the psyche that unifies what was fragmented. When this center is active, the aura carries coherence. It becomes structure, not through words, but through containment. and those around you sense it. Even in the middle of uncertainty, something feels steady when you are near. The seventh sign that your energy is silently healing others is subtle but unforgettable once experienced. Sometimes someone looks at you thoughtfully and says, "You remind me of someone, but I'm not sure who." It is not about appearance, voice, or behavior. It is emotional memory, not logic. A sense of recognition they cannot explain, as if you hold access to something long forgotten. Perhaps this has happened to you more than once. People look at you as if they know you, even if it is your first meeting. It is as though your presence activates something ancient, not from external history, but from an inner landscape. Carl Jung described this as the awakening of archetypes within the collective unconscious. These are universal symbols and patterns every person carries within. When someone encounters an energy that embodies one of these patterns, recognition occurs. It may have no clear name, yet it feels real. Your presence might awaken in someone the memory of being cared for, of feeling safe, of being at peace. It may remind them of childhood, of home, of affection, or even of something they never experienced but deeply desired. It feels like a soul-level familiarity. Without your awareness, that recognition can initiate healing because the person reconnects with something essential that had been dormant. You do not need to fully understand what was stirred. Often the other person does not either. Still, the impact remains. After meeting you, something shifts. They carry the feeling with them, not because of specific words, but because of the emotional memory you activated. You are not their memory. You are a reflection of something they had forgotten, and that reflection supports healing from within. The eighth sign that your energy is silently healing others can be difficult to accept. Some people feel uneasy around you without knowing why. It is not about your actions. It is about what you represent. Your presence, even when calm and respectful, can activate areas within others they are not prepared to confront. It is as though your energy reveals hidden fractures, and not everyone is ready to acknowledge their own. As a result, reactions may become defensive. Someone may withdraw, avoid eye contact, grow distant, or make subtle critical remarks. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because your presence touched an unhealed aspect of them. This discomfort does not indicate failure. It indicates reflection. Your presence functions like a mirror. Those unwilling to see themselves often avoid mirrors or attempt to dismiss them. Jung explained that the shadow consists of qualities we reject in ourselves to appear acceptable. When you stand in coherence without disguise, you naturally contrast with those still struggling internally. Without intending to, you communicate that living with greater authenticity is possible. For someone unprepared, that realization can feel overwhelming. In many cases, the discomfort is not even conscious. The person may not understand their reaction. They simply sense a shift and distance themselves. Your calm may be interpreted as superiority, your silence as judgment, your steadiness as emotional coldness. Someone who is still hiding may perceive clarity as threat. Even so, this reaction is part of the process. Growth is rarely comfortable. It often begins when something challenges our current state. At times, you are that challenge, a quiet reminder that a more honest way of living exists. Not everyone is ready for that, and that is acceptable. You are not here to please. You are here to exist authentically. That authenticity alone can begin a reorganization that eventually becomes healing, even if it initially feels unsettling. The ninth sign that your energy is silently healing others lies in effortlessness. You do not attempt to change people. You do not insist, pressure, or try to rescue those who are unprepared. At some point, you understood that real healing cannot be imposed. It occurs only with willingness. Your presence is not forceful medicine. It is fertile ground. If someone chooses to grow within it, growth happens. If they are not ready, they simply pass through. And that is fine. You are not there to interfere. You are there to support. You do not rush processes. You contain them. Many confuse care with control. Your energy does neither. It invites rather than demands. It resembles a quiet garden in the center of concrete, unassuming, consistent, available. Gradually, those who enter that space feel encouraged to remove their masks, lower their defenses, and rediscover their natural rhythm. This is one of the rarest forms of healing because it does not rely on persuasion or direct intervention. It relies on authenticity. When your truth carries coherence, it subtly reorganizes the environment without explanation. You do not need to convince anyone. Your energy communicates to deeper levels than language can reach. It expresses, if you wish to grow, you may. If not, that is respected. That balanced neutrality allows others to relax. And in relaxation, transformation begins. Jung associated the gardener archetype with the healer, the one who prepares the soil but does not control when the seed blooms. That is how you offer care. You don't measure results. You trust timing. And that quiet, respectful trust is deeply restorative. Often, you don't even realize you are helping someone heal because you are not trying to. Yet the other person feels it. Around you, they sense there is no need to defend themselves. They can stop struggling for a moment. They can simply exist, and that feels sufficient. In that kind of environment, the most meaningful healing happens, not loudly, but sincerely. The 10th sign that your energy is silently healing others is the sudden desire to leave gatherings, meetings, or social events, even when nothing appears wrong. You're not exhausted or bored. Yet something inside you knows your role there is complete. It feels as if your presence fulfilled an unseen purpose. Then a quiet emptiness follows, almost as if your body is saying, what needed to be given has already been given. So you leave calmly, sometimes questioning why the impulse appeared so unexpectedly. But perhaps it is not random. Perhaps it is awareness. You may have sensed that your energy offered what it needed to, a conversation, a gesture, simple companionship. After that, the moment closes. You are not escaping. You are honoring completion. There is a natural timing to emotional exchanges, and those who are attuned can feel when it ends. Even when you leave quietly, you often leave the space lighter than before. The 11th sign that your energy is silently healing others is your ability to sense what remains unspoken. A room and feel its tone. You may not a room and feel its tone. You may not immediately understand it, but your body responds. A tight stomach, pressure in your chest, a subtle urge to withdraw. There may be no logical explanation, yet there is awareness. You read emotional frequencies. You notice nuances others overlook. Your sensitivity is not superficial or based on assumption. It emerges from a deeper connection to the symbolic language of the unconscious. You recognize when someone is in pain, even if they are smiling. You know when an environment feels heavy, even if everything appears normal. This quiet perception makes you a stabilizing presence. You have likely heard phrases such as, "Only you realized I wasn't okay," or "No one else noticed." but you did. And it is true. You did. Is remarkable is that you do not always need to act. Simply noticing begins to reorganize the space. Your presence communicates. Someone sees you. For a person struggling in silence, that recognition can mean more than advice ever could. Jung spoke about the connection between the collective unconscious and the subtle field of the psyche. In some way, you are attuned to that field. You sense emotional undercurrents and subtle signals others miss. By doing so, you provide comfort before words are even spoken. Often, what you feel is not yours, yet you carry it briefly. You filter it, balance it, and stabilize the atmosphere. Then you step away as though nothing occurred. But something did. And the person who was near you understands that. The 12th sign that your energy is silently healing others is how people seek you during pivotal moments. They reach out unexpectedly. They begin discussing topics they usually keep hidden. It is as though you become a bridge between what they are experiencing and what they have not yet been able to articulate. They come when facing loss, transition, crisis, or internal conflict. Without fully understanding why, they feel that being near you is necessary, not for solutions, but for companionship in the process. You have seen this happen. In brief encounters, someone may speak about heartbreak, sudden change, or deep uncertainty. You remain present. No urgency, no dramatization. You simply stay. And that steadiness is enough. Your presence in those moments acts as an anchor, a reminder that pain can be faced and survived. Jung said that every rebirth begins in darkness. You enter that darkness respectfully, without intrusion. Like a small light in a closed room, or warmth during a cold season, you offer stability. Those on the verge of breaking sense the difference, even if they cannot explain it. You attract people not by what you say, but by what you represent. A symbol of reconstruction, a reflection of someone who has fallen and rebuilt. That unspoken message is recognized by those navigating their own collapse. At times, you feel the exhaustion of these quiet exchanges. Holding space requires energy. Yet you continue. Round 2, you now support those standing at the 2. You now support those standing at the edge. Not to prevent their experience, but to remind them that there is still ground beneath them. That ground is your steadiness. The final sign that your energy is silently healing others may be the least visible, yet the most powerful. You have been wounded. You have experienced internal breakdowns. There were seasons when no one saw what you carried. You endured loss privately, processed pain without witnesses, and rebuilt yourself quietly. It was not quick or simple. It was a solitary and sometimes confusing process. Yet within that darkness, something realigned inside you. You withdrew when necessary. You remained silent when there were no answers. You listened to yourself when no one else did. In that silence, the strength people now feel in you was formed. The energy you carry today, perceived by others as warmth and safety, is shaped by the pain you integrated. Those experiences are no longer open wounds. They are understood memories. That is why you do not judge the struggles of others. You recognize them. Your depth is not theoretical. It is lived. It did not come from striving for perfection, but from choosing honesty even when it was difficult. To heal not because you escaped pain, but heal not because you escaped pain, but because you once held it fully. You know its weight and how convincing it can be. And still, you found a way forward, through instinct, belief, persistence, or quiet determination. You endured. Without telling your story repeatedly, you radiate the dignity of someone who survived and rebuilt. That is why your energy heals. It conceals nothing. It pretends nothing. It simply contains. You are not required to carry a title or mission. Yet your presence reflects someone who walked through difficulty and remained intact. For those ready to receive it, that is enough. You may not see yourself as someone who changes lives, yet over time, you have witnessed the effect of your presence. It does not rely on technique or intention. It occurs naturally. Without grand gestures, you have become stability for those who feel unstable, a pause for those overwhelmed by urgency, a support for those close to collapse. You were steady enough for others to begin reorganizing themselves. You do not impose healing. You do not direct the process. You do not claim to have answers. You create space where answers can emerge. Like fertile soil, quiet, grounded, powerful. In that presence, deep seeds feel safe enough to grow. This was not a mission you chose. It is what you became. The sum of your pain, your silence, your rebuilding. Your energy does not come from someone who never fell. It comes from someone who fell, listened, and stood again with a quieter strength. A strength that does not need to announce itself, but simply holds. Carl Jung said that meeting your own soul is what makes a person whole. What you offer, often without realizing it, is that humanity. You do not attempt to heal, yet healing occurs. You do not attempt to rescue, yet others find shelter. You do not attempt to change anyone, and because of that, transformation happens around you. In a world filled with noise, you became stillness. Where everything rushes, you became pause. Where demands dominate, you became space. Perhaps that is the true impact, remaining grounded after every internal storm. You are not obligated to understand it completely or carry anyone else's burden. But now you know there is something within you that restores others, not through effort or recognition, but through authenticity. And that awareness changes everything. If this message resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in any part of it, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Here, we continue exploring themes of presence, emotional awareness, healing energy, and quiet transformation. And if you stayed until the end, leave a comment with the phrase, "My energy heals," and even in silence. That way, I'll know you are part of this subtle shift happening in the world, without needing to announce it. I'll see you in the next video.